make that concoctions up over the weekend where you would get the mayonnaise jar and you go to the liquor cabinet and you pour like
10 different things.
Oh, and it was nasty.
Yeah,
it was
awful.
like drinking lighter fluid or gasoline. But we sit there and sip it, and it was nasty to get down. But we would drink that, and we drank to get drunk and get silly, goofy. We'd go peek in people's windows or run around the neighborhood and be goofy.
Right.
As kids, it grew into like drinking on the weekends with the guys on the corner. We hung out at a playground.
Oh, yeah.
And there was a couple places, and I think at that time we were smoking pot and drinking, and I think the first time I ever got in trouble for drinking and drugging was at my 7th grade dance.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, I ended up overdosing on a combination of alcohol and Quaaludes.
You OD'd in 7th grade?
Yeah, I ended up at Abington Hospital getting my stomach pumped and completely out of it. And it's funny, my friend Alan, who was with me that night, he's 27 years sober, Alan.
Alan?
Yeah, I don't know if you know. Not that you're thinking of another Alan.
Oh, okay, I'm thinking of the Alan I knew back when I was working for Gross and Quaid.
No, not that Alan.
Okay.
But this guy, and I think I spoke a few months ago, and I invited him to come down. He lives up past Allentown. He came down, and
nice.
we're friends. I think most of the people, I don't know if any of them are listening tonight, most of the people I hung with were of the alcoholic drug addict nature.
Birds of a feather.
Most of them are either in the fellowship today or
dead.
Yeah. A lot of them are dead.
Right.
And the rest of them, they're still out there trying to figure this thing out.
Right.
You know what I mean? But
experimenting.
My alcoholism went very rapidly. Most people, can drink for 20, 30 years.
Right.
From the age of 13.
Like our old men.
Yeah.
They drank for like forever.
Well, my father, he came to AA in 1951.
Is that right?
Yeah, he went, but he didn't get sober until 1977.
Right, okay.
So it was a lot of years.
That's when my dad came in.
Yeah, it was a lot of years of in and out with my father.
Right.
But for me, from 13 to 17 was just full of drinking, drugging, and I never felt like I fit in. Even though I may have shown or people thought that I felt. I don't know what people really thought about me.
Right.
But the people I hung with, we drank. My friends down the street, his mom would get us beer, and we would drink in his basement. Every weekend was kind of looking for somewhere to go.
Right.
We used to have parties on our own, get a keg of beer, and it turned into like weekend drinking, turned into Monday night drinking, turned into Tuesday night drinking. I spent.
And this is like in junior high.
Yeah, well, and I was pulled out of school in junior high. I ended up spending 11 months in a place called St. Gabriel's Hall.
You were at St. Gabe's.
Yeah, I was there for 11.
Nice place.
You know what? I look back on it now. I hated it when I was there, but you know what? I think it really enhanced what was going on with me today. I use some of the tools that I learned when I was there. Believe it or not.
Really? Like what?
I think it gave me some kind of discipline in my life.
Really?
Really, yeah. Because
I've heard of guys that went to St. Gabe's that came out and they're like, man, it was a nightmare. You'd think it would have been a wake-up call for some guys.
Yeah, well, it was a wake-up call because I think, I got out of there. I was really lost at that time. I couldn't put months or years together.
Right.
It seemed like something that seemed like 3 weeks ago was actually a year ago. And something that was a year ago seemed like last week.
It's all discombobulated.
Yeah, my time frame. And I'm looking back now. I got this little statue. I got like first awards when I was in there for, when I first went there, I was the kid getting in trouble every day.
Is that right?
And I learned real quick, if you don't get in trouble and you kind of learn and keep this, they don't bug you too much. You know what I mean? So I ended up getting like these, I forget what they called it, some kind of awards they had.
Like a
I
merit?
got this little, it was like a merit award. If you got like, but it said my grade average was like 96.8 or 94.5.
Really?
And I got first honors or whatever. But you had to get it in everything. And I never got the first honors because I never could be disciplined enough to stay out of trouble. Either fist fighting or doing something.
Okay.
Or smoking or,
Yeah, breaking some kind of rule.
Some kind of rule. But I looked at that statue, and it was the trophy that I have, and it's from 1975. And I always thought it was 1974. So it was only like that next year I got sober.
Right.
So I got out of there in September in 75 I got out of there, and a year later I was in AA. So it was like April of 75, and by April of 76 I was sober.
How did that happen?
I think the whole transition of when I got back home, when they take you out of school for a year, I look back now, I felt out of place.
Right.
all the guys I hung with and everything, and all the girls I hung with, kind of moved on for that year, and I was kind of like doing my thing there. I didn't feel like I fitted in when I came back.
Mm-hmm.
And I just started drinking on a daily basis at that point. Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night.
Mm-hmm.
And it just took off. And I look back now, I didn't realize that I was drinking every day. I wasn't really thinking about it, but I just drank every day.
Mm-hmm.
And it got to the point where, when I drank, I was like always getting in trouble. And most of the people that know me,
mm-hmm.
I was always doing something stupid when I was drunk. Or
stealing stuff,
starting a fire, starting trash cans on fire, whatever, stealing a car,
right.
doing something stupid.
Peeping Tom, all that stuff.
Yeah, public drunkenness, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I forget, I got locked up, I think, I'm trying to remember, it was for stealing a car.
Okay.
And it was stealing a car in... it was a 68 Rambler. And it was a girl I went to school with. And when I was in the reform school,
mm-hmm.
I ran away with this guy named Tom Ryan from Scranton. I've been trying to find him. I can't find him. But
have you looked up for him on Facebook?
Yeah, I looked for him all over. But Tom and I decided one night we were going to run away. So you could run around this, I don't know what to call it. They had like a courtyard at nighttime.
Yeah.
And we were running around. I said, I'm tired of this place. He said, I am too. And I said, well, when we come to this corner where you go around the corner, there was a gate there.
Mm-hmm.
I said, we're going to keep running through the gate, cross Poling Road, and down into the woods. And that's what we did.
You ran away.
We ran away. So we run away, right? So it was almost like one of these movies, like Vietnam movies.
Oh,
we're
yeah.
like down in a creek, and we're going on water, and we're think we're going to hide our tracks because we think they're going to have like hound dogs.
Yeah, they'll be on you any minute now.
But they did have skipper chasers. They would chase you right away. There'd be like 10 people after you.
Is that right?
Yeah. So we ran, and we ended up in this apartment complex,
mm-hmm.
and we ended up sleeping in a tree fort.
Oh, yeah?
And we woke up in the morning in this tree fort. It was in some yard in, I think, Pleasant something, right in Phoenixville. And he says, well, let's steal a car.
Oh, that makes sense.
So I'm looking for a car with keys. The only cars I ever stole always had keys in them.
Right.
Right? So
no hot wiring.
Yeah, we always stole one. We look for a car with keys. So he goes, oh, I know what kind of car. So he found an American Motors car.
Mm-hmm.
Pulled the ignition and showed me with a paper clip how he started the engine, and we drove away.
Okay.
So here's these two 15, 16-year-old kids driving his car.
All right.
And we drove to Ambler. And we get home, and I'm telling my brother's at the house, and my mother was...
Tommy.
Yeah, my brother was always working, and I said, we ran away, and he said, yeah, I know, they've been here looking for you.
Oh, really?
I said, well, what should we do? I didn't know what to do, and
right.
We ended up turning ourselves in.
Oh, okay.
And when you turned yourself in, they weren't very nice to you when they got you back there.
Yeah, I'll bet.
They usually put a whooping on you.
Really?
And they had a thing called line.
Yeah.
That was your punishment. You had to stand up.
Mm-hmm.
So they had like these bricks that stuck out of the block, cinder block that stuck out of the wall, and they were about 6 blocks high.
Yeah.
And you had to stand on there, so you were standing there like a statue in a home.
Oh, really?
Like them going to homes, and they got those armored statues on the wall.
Yeah, yeah.
You couldn't talk or nothing. You just had to stand there for like 2-3 weeks.
Like an idiot.
Yeah, you had to stand there when you ate. The only time you got to sit down was when you went to school or went to bed.
Cheese and crackers for hours.
For weeks. You
That
did it
had
all
to
day
kill
long.
you.
And you couldn't ask to go to the bathroom.
Oh, come on.
If you asked to go to the bathroom, they made you late 20 minutes earlier. So you had to ask 20 minutes in advance when you had to go to bed. You had to figure that out.
Oh.
So you really...
It's torture. Too bad they still don't have that today.
It's funny. One of the guys, they called them prefects, the guys that would...
Look over you?
They were like the guards at nighttime or in the daytime.
Oh, okay.
And I was on a fraternity. It was the only fraternity I ever belonged to. I was in the Kappa fraternity, believe it or not.
Oh, yeah?
So I'm in this fraternity now, which I guess I could say I was in a fraternity, tell my friends out there.
Mm-hmm.
But I was in Kappa fraternity, and the one guy that was like that stayed there was he was just very violent.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? He didn't know how to take care of kids. Like, if you said something wrong, he'd backhand you or throw you to the ground or kick you. He was like a karate guy. So
nice guy.
Yeah, real nice guy.
So punching bags walking all over the place.
But about 10 years ago, my daughter wrote an essay, and it was approved by the Knights of Columbus, and she won some award. And we had to go to this church, and they had a ceremony. And
oh, yeah?
They had the Knights of Columbus. This guy's the Knights of Columbus. Now,
Yeah.
I hadn't seen this guy in 25 years.
Yeah, right.
I go down, and we're sitting at this breakfast, and I'm looking across, and I knew who he was.
Really?
But he didn't know who I was. And he goes to say, that's nice, your daughter won that award. And he goes to say his name. I said, I know who you are. Your name's Chuck, right? I said his last name. And he said, yeah, how do you know that? And I said, from St. Gabriel's Hall, 1974.
Really?
And he looked at me and he said, I'm sorry if I ever did anything to harm you.
Really?
Yeah, he made amends right away because he knew. I guess he knew that he was a mean dude when he worked there.
How about that, though?
Yeah, but he made amends. Right
I mean,
away.
that's a rare thing.
Yes, yeah, but he knew. His eyes got real big when I said, "I know you're from there." I was the last place he thought he was going to know somebody.
I'll never forget you.
Oh no. So, but I went there and I believe I hated the whole time I was there, but a lot of stuff early on, it gave me some kind of discipline in life. It really did. They taught me to speak when I was supposed to spoken to and shut up when I was supposed to shut up.
Right.
So I kind of retained some of that.
A little bit of manners.
Yeah, I got out of there and I don't know. My drinking just took off.
Mm-hmm.
Now I knew how to steal these American Motors cars, which was nice.
Handy for later.
So whenever we were drunk and wanted to drive
State
somewhere,
police are chasing you.
I would just go steal a car. And I can't tell you how many American Motors cars I stole.
Oh yeah, because they were everywhere back then.
Yeah, you could just
Gremlins and everything.
So one of the last times I stole this girl's car that I went to school with.
Is that why you had a Rambler when I met you?
No. Yeah, that was like a God thing. I guess he was trying to tell me something. But we stole this old '68 Rambler, and me and a guy named Jeff or John. Me and John stole this Rambler. We're all drunk, and we're driving down Center City, and we're driving all around, and he's driving, I'm driving, and it's like 3 a.m. We come up to this stoplight, and across the other intersections, a cop pointing towards me, and I'm pointing towards him. And I'm looking at the sign.
Philly cop?
Yeah. And the sign says no left turn.
Right.
And John says, you got to make a left turn. You're in the left turn lane. I guess, there's a prime example. Somebody had, not ADD, but what's that when you see things backwards?
Yeah, dyslexic.
He was dyslexic, I guess. So I'm making the left. And then I'm making the left. I'm thinking, that sign definitely says do not make this left. Now, there's a cop on the other side of the intersection.
Yeah, right, watching this.
So he had no choice but to put the lights on.
Yeah.
So they put the lights on, they chase us.
Right.
So now I take off.
Okay.
And I think I'm Speed Racer in my '68 Rambler.
Right.
So I'm flying down the road and I'm driving.
And he's in a Plymouth with a 440.
Oh, yeah, they're just chasing me down the road, right?
Right.
So finally we come down this one street after about 3-4 miles through the city, and they've got the road blocked with 2 cars with the lights over the hoods. And so I jammed the car into reverse and hear all this grinding, and the car came to a stop. And the cop came up, and the window was down about 8 inches. Yeah. And he pulled me through the window. Didn't even open the car door. You know what I mean?
Nice.
And then they took...
They keyholed you.
Oh, yeah. Then they took me... After me and John, they took us and they handcuffed us back to back.
Oh, jeez.
Throw us in this paddy wagon laying down.
All right.
And so now they're taking us to the police station, but it must have took about an hour and a half to get us there. Because what they do, they go about 60 miles an hour and jam the brakes on it. Him and I would slide them and bash our heads on the back of the pack. Then they take off and we slide back down. They were having a good old time with us back there, right?
They could get away with it. This is during Rizzler years.
Yeah. Well, from there, I end up in this rehab.
Okay.
This drug rehab called Allenwood, White Deer Run in Allenwood, Pennsylvania.
That's a famous rehab.
Yeah, now it's pretty big now.
Isn't that where Dick
Flanagan, who he passed away a few years ago, he had almost 50 years sobriety.
He helped a lot of people.
He got sober at Young Men's in the late 50s.
Young Men's was an AA group down in the city that hardcore guys got sober at.
He got sober the year that I was born, 1958.
Is that right?
Yeah, because he said, the year I was 17, he celebrated his 17th anniversary. The year I was in the rehab.
I never met him, but I always heard stories about him.
Great guy. He was crazy as could be, but he loved Alcoholics Anonymous and loved recovery because when we got to the rehab, now I'm going back in the 70s. You can't. I've been up there since, but you can't do some of the stuff they did then. They had like a little graveyard, and where it wasn't a graveyard, it was like a plot of land with these little crosses on there, and there was numbers on them like 075, 1521. They were patients that have left there since 1971 to then that died, and one of them was his son, who
really
high on drugs and alcohol, rolled into a bonfire and burned to death.
Really?
Yeah. So one of it, so he had an interest in this grave, and he would take it through the graveyard. And I guess they were, I'm a physical learner or visual learner, so I got to see things visually, and it kind of impressed me, that like. These people really were here, and they're people that aren't here anymore.
Right, yeah.
And I spent 60-some days there, got sober.
Right.
They said, we think you should relocate. There was a guy I sponsored, Charlie. Charlie and I, our cabins were across from each other.
Oh, yeah.
And I was 17, Charlie was 19. We were both from Montgomery County. He was from Lansdale, I was from Ambler.
Right.
We weren't allowed to talk.
What, to each other?
Yeah, because we were from Montgomery County.
Oh,
me and
okay.
Charlie.
Trouble.
So I went through there, and I got out, and I moved to Williamsport, Pennsylvania. That was like the relocation program. So I'm living with this guy Steve for about.
What, they had like a halfway house there or something?
Nah, they just had a lot of guys had apartments, and it was like a sober town almost.
Is that right?
So there's one building, there was like 12 apartments in it, and I'm going to say 9 of them were people in AA.
Oh, okay.
So this guy Steve, he takes me in his apartment when I first get out, and I'm sleeping on his floor in a sleeping bag, and I remember